I think it was Jeffrey Meisner who called and said, hey, is Laura Troiani your wife? Something to this effect.
Oh,
yes.
like posing like a stranger.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, as a good Samaritan. Oh, she has car trouble. She's this place, and puts this whole thing in motion. And so Laura, who should have been at home with her children, should have been home with her husband, those two little kids who should have been tucked safely in bed.
Yeah.
Instead, they're standing out there in the summer night, two strangers.
Right.
And they were too young to know what was happening, and they had no idea they would ever see their daddy again.
Yeah, on a Friday night.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Never see their daddy again.
This episode of the Coastal Crimes Podcast is brought to you by ServPro Team Araya, the trusted name in biohazard and crime scene cleanup. When the sirens fade and investigators finish their work, someone still has to handle what's left behind. ServPro Team Araya's certified professionals provide safe, compliant, and compassionate cleanup, repair, and restoration. From trauma scenes to hazardous spills, ServPro Team Araya knows what it takes to restore order, so you can begin to move forward. ServPro, like it never happened. Learn more about Team Araya at servpro.com and find the North Vista and San Marcos location.
Hi, welcome back. I'm Portia Locker.
And I'm Christy Hawthorne. We want to bring you back, do a recap. This is Coastal Crimes,
Episode 2.
You know, I'm with the Oceanside Historical Society. I'm an author and I'm a blogger.
And I'm your co-host, and I'm just going to ask the inquisitive questions and add a little commentary here and there. But let's have a quick recap of what we covered in Episode 1.
So we want to talk about Carlo and Laura Troiani, and want to mention again that Laura Troiani was the first woman in San Diego County to face the death penalty in California in 25 years for the murder of her Marine husband, Carlo G. Troiani.
Yeah.
This case captivated not just San Diego County, but the state of California, certainly the hometowns of Carlo Troiani,
Right.
and even Laura, and the Marines that were involved in this, quote, murder for hire plot.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we left off and it wasn't looking good for Laura and Carlo in terms of her infidelities and, you know, running the streets, if you will. Right. And Carlo really made a valiant attempt, if you will, with 20 sessions, 20, again, not one, not two, but 20 sessions of marriage counseling. And she, for lack of a better word, could not stop thoughting and trotting around the streets. I mean, with several different men. But now in episodes 2, we're really going to get in that underbelly of her infidelity, her character being a little sketchy.
Yes.
Sketchy.
Yeah.
We've painted the scene of like, oh, she had this childhood and it was so unfortunate. Now Carlo comes in. He says, I'm going to step up. I'm going to take care of your child that is not biologically mine. They go on to have a daughter. They go on to have before that, they had a beautiful wedding with, all the Marines. And she just is going to turn into a very nasty individual.
Right. And that brings us to the night in August 1984, when Carlo has been lured to a deserted spot off of North River Road in Oceanside,
right, under
the guise of helping his wife because she has car trouble of some kind.
And that's an ongoing thing. She's like, oh, my car trouble.
Yes.
Oh, my
that
girl.
That is a repeated thing. So
AAA.
Carlo drives out there to help his wife.
Right.
While Laura is sitting there waiting for Carlo to show up. Two Marines are hiding in the bushes, waiting to ambush Carlo.
Right.
And when he steps out of the car, we mentioned that Laura taps her brake light to let those Marines know this is him. This is the one. Yeah. And the one Marine, Mark Schultz, shoots Carlo in the back. And Carlo cries out, Laura, I've been hit.
Yeah.
And again, Laura watches this unfold and does nothing to help her husband.
Right.
And so that's where we're at.
Yes.
That's where we're at with this terrible murder.
Right.
Of a wife who set this murder up, a murder for hire. The coastal crime story set in Vista, Oceanside, and Camp Pendleton. And we closed our first episode, talking about Carlo before he loses his life trying to save his marriage.
Right.
And that's where we start today then.
And like many viewers, I'm curious, how did she go about getting not one, not two, not three, not four, but 4 to 5 Marines to murder her husband? Like, how does this even come about? So let's dive in.
Well, she certainly must have been a seductress, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not trying to I guess demean men in any way or to bring them down to one a consensus. But these young Marines with the offer of free sex,
Right. Impressionable.
and what young Marine? Unless they're also a chaplin,
Right.
is going
Like,
to be able to resist this temptation.
there's this young 23-year-old woman, Laura, who's going around,
She's fun-loving.
fun-loving for everybody else, not fun-loving for Carlo,
no.
not fun-loving as a mother,
Right.
just like
No.
she wants to, it's Laura's world.
Right.
It's her world, and if you live in it, you better get with the program, Carlo.
So as we mentioned, Laura is about 23 years old.
Yes.
Her husband, Carlo, who's in the Marine Corps, is 15 years older than she is. And he is sent to a brief deployment. I don't know how brief, but to Korea.
Yeah.
And while he's in Korea, Laura sees the opportunity to throw a party over the Memorial Day weekend. And it's there where she starts an affair that lasts 2 months with a Daryl Nelson. And according to Daryl, they were intimate the first day that they met.
Yikes on a bike, ma'am.
Yeah, Laura's not messing around.
She said, "Here
she's
we
not
go."
messing around. She's inviting Daryl Nelson into her bed, quite literally. And after they had dated a brief time, she asks Daryl, "Do you know anyone that would do a hit," in quotes, "do a hit on her husband?" And then when she was asked, "Well, gosh, why don't you just divorce this guy?"
Right. I love that it says when Nelson, right, Daryl Nelson, he's hooking up with her, he knows that she has the husband. He then gets a little bit of sense, not in the sense that he shouldn't have slept with somebody else's wife, but then he gets a little sense of, he asked her, "Laura, what about simply getting a divorce?" Like, oh, now we want to turn the light bulb on, but you weren't respectful of this man and his marriage. But yeah, it sounds like Daryl Nelson thought it was a joke.
Right.
Like, you want me to find somebody to have a hit on your husband? Why don't you just divorce him?
Yeah. And that's a good question. I think there would be lots of men and women who sadly who are up for having a fling, whether you're married or not married.
Right.
But certainly most people draw the line at murder.
Right. They're like, we can get it on, but I will not find someone to do a hit. I will not do the hit. Yeah. And so she goes on after Daryl Nelson asks, "Why don't you just get a divorce?" She replied in a negative way, complaining that she would then have to get a job. She would have to get a job. She would have to
take care of her children.
If she gets a divorce, she's going to have to get a job and she's going to have to take care of her children. Not something that she had been doing to begin with. And her kids are toddlers at this time. And so how bold of her to say, "Well, if I divorce him, I'm going to have to get a stinking job and I'm going to have to take care of my kids.
I'm going to have to take care of myself. I'm going to have to be responsible, and I'm going to have to take care of my children." Why? Because Carlo was taking care of her. He was working for Laura and those children.
Right.
And he was taking care of her. Now she would be responsible. And that's one thing that Laura, but this is the beauty of the marriage, that she was being cared for and she was being taken care of. But instead of wanting to be under that umbrella of a security, she wanted to really throw the umbrella away, commit murder, and say that.
Yeah. And so it sounds like she's having a Hannah Montana moment. That's like my favorite reference, right? Because she's trying to have the best of both worlds.
Yes.
It seemed as though Carlo knew that she was gallivanting around town.
Yeah.
Then it became too much. And he said, "Hey, let's go to marriage counseling." She says, how dare you question me and how dare you try to stop me from doing what I want to do. And now it's like she's had enough. She still wants to be taken care of, but she wants it again to be on her terms. And she's like, if he's not going to let me have Hannah Montana movement, then I'm just actually going to have him killed. Yeah. And it wasn't ridiculous.
If you think about it, it even wasn't about the sex. She's not this person that's driven by sex, because if she wanted to have sex, she could have sex probably every day with her husband.
Right.
She was withholding sex. She didn't want
to torment him.
That. She wanted this freedom to have these sexual relationships. It gave her some sort of
high.
Yes, high. I would agree.
Yeah.
Withholding sex from Carlo gave her some sort of power or leverage, and I think she thought that having sex with these strangers and other men were giving her some sort of power and leverage, and that somehow she would be able to manipulate them. As she was manipulating Carlo, she was going to be able to manipulate them into doing what she wanted. And that was to get rid of her husband.
Yes.
So she continues to party, and there is a gunnery sergeant by the name of Jesse Montgomery who attends one of those parties and noticed, again, it was quite common for a man to be coming in and out of the bedroom. So she was having these parties presumably in her own house.
Right.
Where were the children? Were they seeing all of this? Who's taking care of them?
Who's watching the children is what I want to know. Who's watching the kids?
Yeah.
And again, they're toddlers, but who's watching the kid? Also, who's watching the house, right? Like who's watching the people come in and out, as a neighbor, it's hard. Sometimes you want to just keep your head down, mind your business. But where is that internal questioning of like, what are my neighbors going to think?
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
I mean, let's be real, right?
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of throwing it out, but
you're in an apartment building. People see this myriad of men coming in and out.
Yeah.
And not only that, but at this party, people will see you're coming in and out of your bedroom like a revolving door. And so, Jesse Montgomery would later say that, he was told that this marriage was one of convenience. It was convenient for Laura. I don't think it was a marriage of convenience to Carlo.
No, not at all.
Most assuredly, but it was a convenience to Laura. And then Troiani spoke to Montgomery saying that she wanted to get rid of Carlo, even if she knew that someone could put a contract out on him. Now she sounds like a mobster.
Right.
Put a contract.
You know what?
I need a hitman.
This is what happened. Her mom was watching those soap operas when she was younger, and then Laura got all these ideas. Yeah, let's go put a hit on him.
Yeah,
like,
do a hit.
What?
Put a contract out on him.
The lack of awareness or reading the room, and it's so easy to say, why don't you just get a divorce? Why don't you just get a divorce? It sounds like nothing in Laura's life ever was easy or made sense. She had a father who went to prison for attempted murder of a neighbor. You have a brother a sibling that went to prison. Your mom's disengaged.
Yeah.
This is it's the crazy train at this point. So she's asking people that are coming in and out of her bedroom, in and out of her home, if they could put a contract, put a hit out for him. And then get to the part where the same weekend, she talks to two other men, Kevin Manwaring and Bill Fenley, and she tells them she wants her husband dead. So she's not using euphemisms anymore. Right.
Put a hit on him, put a contract on. Well, what do you mean? I want him dead. I want him dead.
Yeah.
And then Manwaring, he said later he was joking with her. He probably saw an opportunity to again have sex with her.
Right.
I'll do it. I'll do it for $5,000. But he said he was offering as a joke and probably maybe even to get into that bedroom. And Laura quickly says, well, I can take care of it out of the insurance proceeds.
And at that point, I would be like, thank you, bye, time to go.
Yeah.
And what are these? I mean, I know what these young Marines are thinking, right? Like, the door keeps swinging open for everyone. Like, might as well see if I can hang out. But what is the end game, right? Like, obviously she wants her husband dead, but then them saying, oh, I'll do it for $5,000. And I just want to highlight that she said, well, she offered, I can take it out of the $95,000 insurance, life insurance, which I did the math on it, and that would equate to $280,000 in 2026. And so $95,000, this young man's like, yeah, I'll do it for $5,000. You should have let one of us negotiate it because $5,000 is very little, but she's so flippant about it. She's so flippant about it. Yeah. Like, will you, I'll give you $5,000, again, no regard for human life. That is the example that she had seen growing up, and she had an opportunity to shift it, but instead she decided to just run the streets and be this seductress, if you will. Absolutely. She's young in her own right? She's 23. She's a young mother, She's getting almost a high, if you will, by engaging in this sexual activities with these young Marines. No regard that it was a friend of this guy. We're having this party. I mean, it's rampant with sex.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Sex will make you do crazy things.
And because Kevin Manwaring had supposedly jokingly offered to kill Laura's husband for $5,000, Laura thought she had a hot one, so she called him several times to follow up and create a plan to kill Carlo. And so I'm sure that he's going, oh my gosh, I just can't believe this can of worms that I've opened with this woman, because I thought it was going to lead into a sexual encounter. That would be that. But she really believes now because I was joking or half joking.
And let that be a lesson to all. Do not joke about murder. Do not say, no one's life is worth a joke or sex or $5,000. And so
he really
thanks a lot.
He almost made himself a co-conspirator. Just by being flippant and wanting to slip into that bedroom with her. Yeah.
Not worth it, y'all.
So a neighbor by the name of Annabelle Thompson, and Anna or Annabelle will show up in later in episodes and have a role in watching the children. She also recalled that Laura had told her that she knew a person in Tustin who would take care of Carlo, take care in quotations, and that he was worth more dead. Annabelle
said this.
Yes. Well, Annabelle said that Laura had told her this.
Oh, that he would be worth more.
Yes. Laura told Annabelle Thompson.
I see.
Laura had someone in Tustin. He's going to do this for me, and that that Carlo is worth more dead to her than
I'm tracking
alive.
Now. I apologize, guys. I keep reading. I'm like, now another crazy lady. But, again...
Now, red flag.
All these red flags. And I'm like, who is going to be the one to say, something's not right. Something's not right. The marriage counselor said she was a manipulator. She was a tormentor. So that's one person. Manwaring, I thought she was joking when she said that, could I find someone that had a hit? Annabelle, she said she knew somebody.
Jesse Montgomery, Daryl Nelson.
At what point?
I know. At what point do you... And again, I guess apparently they just did not take her seriously, and they thought maybe she was joking. But how many people do you have to go to before someone says, oh,
how many?
I think she's serious.
How many times do you have to say LOL before hey, JK, can you kill my husband? In all seriousness, it's just a pattern of her wanting to get rid of Carlo by any means necessary. So now it appears that many of the men Laura encountered thought she was joking. They didn't take it serious, but she continued searching. I mean, everything short of like putting an ad in the paper. Remember back in the day, they had the penny saver, right? You get your little coupons and they have ads. Like she was one step away from putting out a classified. Thank goodness it wasn't the time of like digital technology. We could have found her digital footprint a lot faster, but
right.
she was word of mouth just pursuing relentlessly at this point.
And
relentlessly.
we don't know how many men she slept with. We don't know how many men she really offered or asked them to do this hit on Carlo.
Right.
But she was dead set on it. And so one person with one encounter, might think she was joking or this was an odd request, but no, I'm not going to do this kind of thing. But she was, really setting a pattern. And I think for every person that she asked, I think she was solidifying it in her mind that this is what she was going to do. So as each person that she either slept with and asked or, offered money to, this was a plan. This was a plan.
Right.
And while she couldn't get anyone on board for her plan, she would eventually make sure that she found the right people to get
Right.
this plan accomplished.
Yeah.
And so, in July of 1984, just a month or so before the murder of Carlo, a neighbor moves in. Her name is Kim Hartman. She moves into this apartment complex, and the two women start talking as you would. Hey, neighbor, maybe you take over a pie or some cookies.
Yes.
I don't know, but
Yes.
what do you talk about?
It's a real thing. It's a real thing. I just want to side note for the audience. That's how my parents met my godparents. She had knocked on the door and said, hey, I need a scrub brush. And so my parents, lent it to her. But then later that evening, my mom had made chicken and pasta and delivered it. And now they've been friends for over 40 years.
Wow.
And she was pregnant at the time. So that audience is how you are neighborly. Okay. You're there to just, hi neighbor. Maybe you don't bring them chicken and pasta, but you're cordial. You're nice. And so what did this neighbor do?
Laura goes to Kim Hartman and tells her that she wants to have her husband killed.
Yikes. She didn't ask for a scrub brush.
No,
she didn't.
no.
She
Take
wasn't.
over a pie.
She wasn't taking over a pie to get to know her neighbor. She just boom out the gate.
Yeah. And so Kim Hartman would say that Laura talked about it constantly.
Obsessively, almost.
Constantly and obsessively. So regardless of how many times, they met, the conversation would always come to the point where she wanted, Carlo dead. And Laura told, Kim Hartman that that Carlo was aware that Laura was unhappy. He had offered to divorce her and still take care of her, pay her rent and give her child support.
Because remember, she was worried about if she got divorced, she would have to go to work and she would have to take care of her kids. And Carlo is essentially saying, hey, we don't have to be together. I can tell you're unhappy. I will still take care of you. How honorable.
I know.
How honorable to say, I'm still going to provide financial support, because at the end of the day, he wanted to prove his worth, kind of almost as he did when he was a recruiter. He's loyal. He's faithful. He takes the Marine Corps oath to heart. And he said, here, Laura, let me give you what you want.
Yeah. I'll give you a divorce. I'll pay your rent and I'll take care of the children. But she didn't want that.
Because she's conniving.
Yeah, she wanted Carlo dead.
Yeah.
And she wanted that insurance money. And in order for her to get that insurance money, Carlo had to die.
$95,000. That's what this man's life was worth.
Yeah.
And also, Kim. Okay, maybe the guys who were coming in and out of her home because they wanted to hook up weren't going to go to their fellow Marine, Carlo, and say, hey, by the way, your wife's been asking around. She wants to put a hit on you. Yeah. Kim, the neighbor, you see this man coming in and out of the house. You see him with his young children, and you don't have... and I get it. It's it's so easy to sit in this.
Business,
it is so easy to sit in this chair and say, I wouldn't know. I'm very much like, keep your eyes on your own paper. But at what point?
I know.
At what point do you say? And she, Kim probably didn't want to. This is all speculation. Kim probably didn't want to say, hey, Carlo, by the way, but you couldn't put a note in his gym bag. You couldn't.
Right.
Call around. I don't know. I think we learn from history. I think we're very much like, if you see something, say something. They probably, again, thought Laura was off her rocker, had a little, a screw loose, right? But everybody's willing to look past the screw loose. Right. In this case, if they can screw. You see where I'm going with this? Somebody should have spoke up, and they didn't.
Yeah. Well, Kim Hartman isn't really, because I would be freaked out if someone came to my apartment and started talking about murdering their husbands. But Kim and Laura, they go to an E-club, and for those of you who don't know, it's an enlisted club. It's a bar. It's a nightclub. It's a dance club on base for the military. Yeah. And there were several in the 1980s. I really don't know how many, if any, enlisted clubs there are in Camp Pendleton. Right. I'm so far removed. But I remember that there was an E-club on Main Side. There was an E-club at Del Mar. The Del Mar E-club was the Hoppin' E-club.
Right. It's by the beach.
And there was one in Santa Margarita, the base, the portion of the base where Carlo, Carlo was not stationed there. 4 Marines would be stationed at the Margarita camp.
Right.
It's a camp. That's what I wanted to say.
And that Margarita, that's more inland. If you're familiar with Camp Pendleton, and remember, she lives in Vista. So it's not... for benefit, it would be towards the back gate, right? Even still, even from Vista or Oceanside, you get to the back gate, guess what? And you still got 40 minutes.
Exactly. It is a drive. I remember my husband was stationed at Camp Margarita, and him wanting me to take him some food in the middle of the night. And, in Camp Margarita. And from Oceanside, it took me probably 30 minutes to get up there. And that was at nighttime. Yes. And it's not a highway. They're the windy roads of Camp Pendleton.
And you remember, because I remember as a young kid, my parents, they lived in Vista, North County, but they would always do their grocery shopping at the commissary on base. But before they had the convenience of the commissary at the front gate towards the front, you come through the checkpoint and there's the grocery, or there's the commissary. Back in the day, it was deep into Camp Pendleton. So, I mean, the fact that these ladies, Kim, shame on you. She said, Laura goes, I want to put a hit on my husband. Kim's like, we can't do that, but do you want to turn up at the E-club? Like, get your dancing shoes on. Let's go.
Well,
wrong.
And that's what happens.
And that's what they did.
That's what happens. And that's where Laura first meets Jeffrey Meisner.
For
the first time. And then she's introduced to other Marines who eventually would be the accomplices to her husband's murder, including the trigger man, Mark Schultz, the man who shot Carlo in the back, then in the neck, probably ran over him with the car.
Yeah.
And she starts talking to these 4 Marines and starts talking immediately that night about killing her husband.
I never thought this would happen. We got you.
Call the team with the speed and precision hospitals trust to keep them safely operating through the unexpected. ServPro, like it never even happened.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, 4 Marines. 4 Marines.
So Kim and Laura, and it would have been Jeffrey Meisner, Mark Schultz, Russell Sanders, and I'm going to forget the other and Russell Harrison, the 2 Russells, and they sit there and listen. And Laura must be very, very persuasive. Because nobody walked away from that table saying this girl is crazy.
Yeah. Probably taking shots of Fireball.
Right. And they're sitting there listening to all of this. Yeah. And she was not, I would never conspire to murder anyone.
No.
But if I were
hypothetically,
I'm going to speak to my closest confidant.
Right.
I'm not going to speak to strangers who are going to. She did not care. She's past the point of no return. This plan must come to fruition, and she doesn't care about what the impression is. No. She doesn't care about what they think. No. She's going to say it, and so.
She's careless, reckless at this point. 4 people. Have you ever tried to tell a secret beyond one person? At this point, we're playing telephone. Everybody knows your business. Right. It's either, it goes like this. Keep it to yourself. tell the Lord or tell your best friend. That's
Right.
it. But
That's
four,
right.
you told your
Right.
business to four, and this is for that night with Kim, right? So
Yeah.
that's 4 men that night, not to include the countless others.
And these Marines would go back to the barracks and they would tell their fellow Marines about this as well.
yeah, we
And
met this chick.
Yes. Yes, we met this chick and
The
she
screw loose.
And none of these other Marines said anything. Again, it was probably all under the guise of being a joke.
Okay, at this point, I'm like, yeah, they probably thought she was a joke. So
Right,
she must have had a
right.
crazy sense of humor.
Right. But fast forward, and we have other episodes, Portia, that we'll get into all
Right.
the details how this unfolds.
Yes, we just
But
wanna
if
set the
if we
scene.
close out this episode with what culminated into this tragic murder, so what actually happens that night
Mm-hmm.
is that Laura and 2 Marines, it would have been Russell Harrison and the trigger man Mark Schultz.
Right.
They drive to a 7-Eleven on Vandergrift Boulevard. So if you live in Oceanside and you're familiar with the back gate, you know exactly where I'm
Yes.
talking about.
Yes.
It's where North River Road meets Vandergrift.
Yeah.
And she has her 2 little children with her to accomplish this murder. And she leaves the 2 little ones with Russell Sanders and Jeffrey Meisner at the 7-Eleven. Now, it's around midnight, maybe a little bit later, maybe a little bit older. These children may or may not know Jeffrey Meisner and Russell Sanders. If they do, how do they know them? Oh, this is the
guy that keep coming over to the house, which
Yes.
is just like,
Or my
Yeah.
mommy drives us up to Camp Margarita and we sit in the car while she talks to them.
wait.
And so these poor little kids.
no iPad, no nothing. So you
no
just
nothing.
sitting there.
Yeah.
And, no Slurpee, no nothing.
Yeah.
At midnight, no regard. As a mom, I'm just like furious.
You don't know what these 2 Marines are going to do to your kids. I mean,
Come on. And back it up. Because remember in the first episode, her own sibling, had gone to jail for molestation. And so
Yes.
we should always be protective of our children.
Absolutely.
But then when you saw it firsthand, you got to be even more vigilant.
Yeah.
And it seems like all these things that happened to Laura would have made it so she went in a different direction. And here she is putting her children in harm's way, her husband in harm's way, the fellow Marines in harm's way, whether they thought it was joke or not.
Right.
Again, she has no regard for life.
right.
No regard. Oh, I'm hot.
And so these kids were 5 and 2 years old. They should have been home in bed.
In bed.
Instead, they're standing with 2 Marines, on the outside of a 7-Eleven.
Absolutely
The clerk
not.
of the 7-Eleven can see these 2 Marines standing there with these 2 little ones, probably wondering what's going on.
Yeah.
And Laura, in the meantime, gets in the car with Russell Harrison and Mark Schultz, and they drive to the ambush site. And Carlo has been called. I think it was Jeffrey Meisner who called and said, "Hey, is Laura Troiani your wife?" Something to this effect.
Oh, like posing like a stranger.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
as a good Samaritan. Oh, she has car trouble. She's this place, and puts this whole thing in motion. And so Laura, who should have been at home with her children, should have been home with her husband, those 2 little kids who should have been tucked safely in bed.
Yeah.
Instead, they're standing out there in the summer night, 2 strangers.
Right.
And they were too young to know what was happening, and they had no idea they would ever see their daddy again.
Yeah. On a Friday night.
Yeah.
Come on now.
Never see their daddy again.
Disturbing.
It's very disturbing. It's very disturbing.
We say here and there, but it's just no regard.
Laura, this just goes to show you that Laura had no, really true love or care for her own children. And as you mentioned, because of the trauma she went through, there's millions of people over time who've gone through similar trauma,
Yeah.
and that does not lead to murder.
Yeah.
It either makes you or breaks you.
Yeah.
And even if it breaks you, it doesn't make you a murderer.
Yeah, no
But
excuse.
sometimes this adversity makes you want to be a better parent. This is how I lived. I never want to put my children
Right.
through that. Instead, Laura was completely detached. She was completely detached as she drove down that dark road, on her way to lure her husband.
Yeah.
She was completely detached from leaving thinking my kids will be okay,
Right.
or she didn't even think about her kids.
No.
And then this is where we're at. And as we go into the next, episode 3, we're going to take, there's so many details.
Yes.
There's so much details.
Yeah.
There's so many layers of this story that are, heartbreaking.
Right.
They make you so angry.
Yeah. And again, to our viewers and listeners, we're going to have that added effect that we have people that we will be interviewing that were a part of this case, that were involved, that saw firsthand. And I'm going to ask, I got to ask, whether it's you or me, somebody needs to ask, what was your first impression of Laura? Because, maybe these birds are flocking together and they're just like, Laura's so funny. I'm waiting for someone with cognitive sense to say, from the moment I met her, I knew something was off. I'm waiting for someone to come in and say, something was off about her. Something didn't sit right.
Yeah.
I saw from the get-go that she was a manipulator, a liar, no regard. And also, okay, I'm going to say this. Laura didn't have regard for her husband. Laura didn't have regard for the Marines. Laura didn't have regard for her children. But also, Laura didn't have regard for herself. Right. What do you mean you're going to drive up this dark dirt road by your... First of all, I'm a scaredy cat. Yeah. I'm not driving up a dirt road knowing that I'm going to possibly witness a murder. No regard. Like, there's something off.
Yeah.
There's
totally
something
off. And I feel like she was probably actually excited that it was actually going to happen. This is the moment that she anticipated. She had planned this for quite some time, and that was going to unfold. And she watched it all in passively. So as Portia mentioned, we're going to have a detective who was investigating the case, who had talked to Laura. So, stay tuned to our upcoming episodes.
Yes.
And we're going to lay this all out.
Yeah. 10-part series, y'all. 10-part series. This is phenomenal. And again, thank you to you, Christy, for doing the research and getting the backstory and taking the time and so boldly saying, hey, I would like to talk to the investigator and some of the other guests and really taking the time to understand this story in depth. And I would just like to say, I'm a novice, right? Like, I'm not an expert, but I was like, let me put my skills to the test in Google. And a lot of it could be circled back to your blog. And so kudos to you for doing that extensive research. And thank you to our viewers and listeners for tuning in to this episode. This is episode 2. This is all a part of a 10-part series. So we want you to stay engaged. We want you to join us along in this adventure, this journey, because the time has been taken to take you through this journey. And so be sure to follow us, give us a like, subscribe, do all the things, because this is for you. So thank you to Christy again. And so stay tuned.
Yeah. And thank you, Portia, just for having an interest. And, you're the tour guide.
Yes.
I can, maybe give you all the facts, but I love having a tour guide as we dive into this. And you see it from a different perspective. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Not nosy, inquisitive, but I'm ready to be the inquisitive tour guide. So, again, thank you guys so much. And we'll see you next time.